monitoring Twitter and Facebook and our own website, looking to see what questions you have. And then we also have defense attorney Janet Johnson to answer some of your questions. Thank you, ladies, for both of you being here. So, Anna, what are you hearing online?
Well, Christy, as soon as we opened up the Facebook page for HLN, the questions started pouring in. So this is what I want you guys to do is go to facebook.com/HLN. You just type in your status update right here. Let us know if you have questions or your response. And you can see them right here on the right side of the page. So let's get to the first question. This is from Facebook. Daniel Bird wants to know, Janet, can George Zimmerman sue his former attorneys for defamation of character for basically saying he's mental?
Right, well, I guess they did. The question is, did they slander him? Did they say something in spoken word that wasn't true? Because truth is an ultimate defense. So if it wasn't necessarily untrue, no, they can't do that. The first thing I would think he would do is complain to the Florida bar, though, and say, my lawyers violated my attorney-client privilege by going to the press. And that, I suspect, he is going to do.
Okay, thank you, Janet. Now, here's another question that we're getting from our Facebook page. This is from Carol. It is my understanding that a judge has to approve an attorney's withdrawal from a case. Is that the fact in this case?
Well, it's interesting because today we're finding out there may be a judge assigned to this case any minute if it hasn't already been done. But when these gentlemen made their announcement, there was no judge. There was just an investigation. So technically, there wasn't a case for them to withdraw from. So no, there wouldn't be a need for a judge to say, yes, gentlemen, you can get out of the case because there's no judge, there's no jurisdiction, there isn't anybody to approve or disapprove.
You know, it's interesting, Anna and Janet both, because when I've been listening to my Facebook page and my Twitter pages, a lot of people are talking about how it's such a strange scenario. Usually when somebody withdraws from a case, when an attorney withdraws from a case, they just come out, they say they've withdrawn from a case, they shut their mouths and they go away. This was an hour-long press conference, Janet.
Right, not the orthodox way to do it. And there's a catchphrase that we use sometimes to say there's been a breakdown in communication, which is telling everybody, I haven't heard from him, I don't know where he is. Instead of literally saying that in a press conference, usually you'd pick up the phone, you'd call the prosecutor, and you'd say, Angela Corey, I know we've been talking to you about this case, but we don't have communication with our client. We're getting out. That's the only way, the only thing that had to be done, or issue a press statement saying, please stop contacting us. We don't represent this gentleman. An hour-long press conference is a little over the top.
All righty. Hey, Anna, what else are people saying?
Janet, this question comes from Twitter. So this user says, let's be serious. The same thing is going to happen with this case as Casey Anthony. And I've been seeing that a lot on Twitter and Facebook. So does going public ruin cases?
Well, or is it Florida? I mean, you know, I'm an attorney here in Jacksonville, Florida, and I know it makes us look like something's going on in Florida that isn't that great. But I don't know if it's going public or if what happened to Casey Anthony is not going to happen, I suspect, today. Did she get overcharged? Charging her with first-degree murder, which is not what Angela Corey is going to do. She hasn't been to the grand jury. I suspect she'll charge it as manslaughter, which is a provable charge. I think that's why this case is different from Casey Anthony. But, you know, whether it's Casey Anthony or Mr. Sandusky going to the press, usually if you don't think it's going to help your case, it's probably going to hurt it. Don't open your mouth.
You know, a lot of people have mentioned it. I've seen that, too, the example that's connected to the Casey Anthony case. And a lot of people say they lost faith in the system after the Casey Anthony trial. But it went to, you know, the jurors. They made the decision. What do you say, Janet, to people who say they just don't trust the courts?
Well, what might happen in this case, which might make people even more suspicious, because of stand your ground, a judge is going to decide whether this Mr. Zimmerman is immune from prosecution, which means a judge could throw out the whole case before it even gets to a jury, understand your ground. And that might make people also feel that the system doesn't necessarily work for victims. I'm a little afraid of that in Florida and in this case.
All righty, Anna, one more question maybe? What have you got?
We do have one last question from Facebook that actually I just lost, so I apologize.
No, that's okay. It's right there on the screen.
So let's say Zimmerman really did shoot Trayvon in self-defense. Should he be charged with anything?
Right. Well, I think that's what Ms. Corey spent all this time deciding. She charges people, but that doesn't mean she convicts them. So she can say, you know what, I think there's enough probable cause to bring charges against him. And I think she pretty much has to do that because people are up in arms and want to see this go through the system. But there is a stand your ground defense. A motion will be filed invariably, and a judge can decide whether it should be thrown out. So I think that's part of what's going to play out in the system. If a judge says, no, I think this has to go to a jury, that defense will still be raised. And ultimately, he's not precluded from saying this was self-defense, and it will be decided by either a judge or a jury.
Okay, and the big question is how to stand your ground law. How does that play into all of this? And we'll have to explore that later. But thank you both, Janet and Anna, for being with us. So good to have you here. And I want to remind you that